Welcome, my constant reader friends. I'm Tad, and this is Tad Reads Books and Stuff. All right, we're flying through the year already. Already halfway through February. Unbelievable. All right, so let's just get the normal stuff out of the way so we can start talking about Peripheral. Yes, I finished William Gibson's The Peripheral. We're going to talk about this. Hopefully this won't be too long of a video because I can start running at the mouth, and this is one of the books that I really could lose myself with. All right, so what are we currently reading? I have started Walter D. Edmonds' Bert Breen's Barn. Thank you, Graz, for gifting this to me. Haven't got very far into it. Really just was focusing more on the Peripheral, but I did want to get this started, and I'm not into it really yet. I mean, geez, only 20, 30 pages. But I'm very interested for a specific reason. We'll talk about that hopefully next week when I get this finished. And of course, we are still continuing with Harrow County. This is Omnibus 2. We only have one more video coming out for this with the Marvelous Team Up, Graz and myself. About around Tuesday, Wednesday, usually these videos come out. This will be the last one in Harrow County, and we will be announcing our next graphic novel that we will be reading with the Marvelous Team Up. Got a stack of books here. We'll go through those. Of course, Star Wars Ronin, a Visions novel, is what I hope to wrap the month up with. Haven't started that at all yet. All right, let's get into it. William Gibson's The Peripheral. So let's get the numbers out of the way. This was originally published in October of 2014. My version has 485 pages, and on Goodreads it currently has a 3.9 grade. I will tell you right off, I loved it. I gave it a 4.5. I couldn't quite give it a 5 because there are some issues with it, which we will discuss. But I have to be honest with you. I love William Gibson. I have been reading him for many years. I've found out that he, especially watching some YouTube videos, either you love him or hate him. We'll get into that a little bit, but I just wanted to, just show off some stuff here. I first discovered, of course, William Gibson through Neuromancer many years ago. This book is on my top 10 book list of all times. I loved this cyberpunk novel and consequently fell in love with William Gibson. There's another book here that I just wanted to show off. This is Pattern Recognition. Oh my God, I got done with this book and I just couldn't get it out of my brain. I was thinking about this constantly. He's got this style of writing that is kind of slow burnish. Is that a word? It's not, in your face, fast, hyper, like you would think maybe with a futuristic science fiction type novel. It takes a while for you to actually realize that you're ingesting this book and the concepts that he's trying to put out there. You're going to see that as we talk about Peripheral too. Another book really quick, and I don't have the cover for this. I need to find one someday, is The Difference Engine. Now this is a steampunk novel by William Gibson and Bruce Sterling. Some people say one of the first steampunk novels ever written. I don't know about that. I think anything H.G. Wells or Jules Verne wrote is kind of steampunk to me. But that being said, really cool book. If you're into steampunk, one of the reasons why I'm wearing my top hat today. Really cool book. And of course, he's written everything. He's even got some graphic novels out here. So this is Archangel, really cool graphic novel by William Gibson. Also, he wrote a screenplay in the Aliens universe. He wrote Aliens 3, and it never actually was produced. There is a production of it that's audio with actors reading through it that came out years after he wrote it, but it never was produced as a movie and never made it, I guess, into the world, the alien world, although it is still considered. Anyways, he did that as well. So let's get into Peripheral. What is Peripheral? So this is a futuristic science fiction novel. Now, it's not cyberpunk like Neuromancer, but it is more of that style of writing that he did back with Neuromancer. And like pattern recognition is a little bit different type of near futuristic type writing, storytelling. And Peripheral, even though it's more science fiction, it's not cyberpunk, but it's kind of more like that style of writing that he had back in the day. This book opens up really with, we meet this young woman. She's in her 20s something-ish, and her name's Flynn. She's got a brother Burton. Now, her brother used to be in the United States Marine Corps, had some damage to him where he had some stuff medically done to him to enhance him, and it's kind of futuristic. This takes place around 2030. I mean, they don't come right out and give a date, but about 2030. So when this book was written, about 20 years in the future, 20, 30 years-ish in the future. But what they're doing is, it's kind of interesting because, so we meet Flynn, and her brother Burton says, hey, I need you to take over for me. So what they're doing is, in the future, drugs are king. The only way to really make a good living is to make these drugs, these new, crazy drugs that people take to escape, of course. They don't want to do that. They don't want to be caught up in this drug thing. So they try to do things more honestly. And one of the things you can do is, in the future, which we're already seeing, is you can play video games and make money doing it. Sometimes you're hired by somebody to play the game for them because they don't have time to actually play it, but they want the status of being the best player. Things like that you can get paid for doing. We see this now with there are gamers out there that are making millions of dollars playing their games on Twitch and things like that, selling their time to play with famous people, things like that. So William Gibson has been known to maybe predict the future a little bit in some of his futuristic writings, and he does so here, I guess. So that's what they're doing. They're playing, Burton plays these video games, and his sister Flynn played them as well, but usually it was like shooter games. And Flynn is done with shooter games. It grosses her out. It's too visceral. She doesn't like it. It's too mean and nasty. But Burton, that's what he's doing. He says, hey, Flynn, I need you to sub for me. I got to go do something. Could you just, play this game? Just be in the game. Be a person. Be present. And she's like, oh, you owe me. And he's like, I'll pay you good. Whatever. She sits down, and he explains to her, though, that this is kind of like a beta. So this is a new type of game, and he tells her it's not a shooter game. So she shouldn't be, frightened off of that. Just go in there, spend the time in it for me, and just observe, see what's happening. And that's what she does. She goes in, she sets up, she plays, she goes into the game, she's playing the game, and it's really like an observation, almost like just gathering recon. And it's a recon assignment type thing. Just watch and see what, happens. And she witnesses some strange stuff. It looks, or it appears, that she witnesses a murder. Now, I'm not really giving anything away. This happens like really soon in the book. So So she witnesses this. Now, she has this feeling, this is more than just VR. Is this realistic, or is it just virtual reality? What's going on here? So anyways, that's where we get into this. And what we find out is that she actually witnessed a murder in the future, almost 70, 80 years or so in the future. And we start to put this together because you can actually go to the future through this thing called a peripheral. What's a peripheral? Well, the peripheral is like an android body that your conscience can inhabit, and you can walk around now in this world, but it's not VR. It's actually a real place. She doesn't realize, of course, at first that it's actually even in the future. So the technology in the future is using, there's like rich people in the future that can use this technology to actually time travel. It's not, you can't physically do it, but mentally you can time travel and go in the future. And again, there's some rich people who love to do this. And that's what's happened. So she figures this out because she witnessed that murder. The future has sent people to come and kill her and her brother and her family. And so that's the whole premise. And where does that go from there? It kind of becomes like a murder mystery. She, of course, starts making more contacts. She realizes that she's in a peripheral. She meets all these people. That's where we've got some issues with the book. They throw characters at you, it's a barrage of characters. So, I mean, we've got Flynn, her brother Burton. We've got this character Wilf, who becomes like her caretaker of her peripheral in the future. We've got Connor. Connor is one of Burton's Marine Corps buddies that got his arms and legs blown off and now is in like this contraption. But he gets to go into a peripheral and he freaking loves it because now he can walk around and run and do things, that he can't in the real world. That's kind of cool. There's this Lobar, Lev, Griff, who else? Shailene, Clovis, Tacoma, Deidre, Tommy. I mean, I can just go on and on. Now, one of the problems that people have with William Gibson is he doesn't spend a lot of time in his novels doing character development. You learn these characters through the story, and in bits and pieces. One of the issues is his writing style. He doesn't use pronouns. He just doesn't like pronouns. He uses short, choppy, direct sentences, short, choppy, direct chapters. This book goes back and forth. So one chapter will be like 2030. The next chapter is you're in this futuristic world 2011, and it goes back and forth every chapter. 2011 is in this futuristic London, but it's weird. There aren't as many people there, we realize. And a lot of the people that we do see are fake. They're machines, androids, peripherals, different things like that in the future. And why is that? Well, we learn that there's this thing called a jackpot. The jackpot is the name they've given to a worldwide event that happens, of course, between the 2030 time period and the 2011 or 2100 time period. And I'm not going to tell you what happens in there. It is part of the story. I don't think it's the most integral part of the story. I read one review where it said, oh, the jackpot happened and it was such a huge integral part to this story, and they don't even explain it at all. That just leads me to believe that the person who did that review never read the book, because yes, they mention the jackpot very early in the book, but they just mention it. They don't explain it. But as the book goes, they completely explain it. So if you read the whole book, you wouldn't have written that they don't explain it. Other issues is terminology and concepts. William Gibson loves to throw out these scientific, made up or realistic terminologies at you, like a gun, like a machine gun. Boom, boom, boom. They're hitting you so fast, you really can maybe not understand what's actually happening in the story. Now, a lot of people, that's a huge detractor from the novel. Many reviewers that I read said that they, after 40 pages, they just DNF'd it. I don't know, again, I've had issues with that. How do you DNF a book if you've only read 30 or 40 pages? But I've also read people that love the book that say the same thing. The first 30 or 40 pages, 50 pages is a slog. It's hard to get through. I'm a slow reader, so it didn't bother me as much. But if you're not a slow reader, you have to start this book slowly. You don't have to mentally understand all the terminology and concepts at once at the beginning, because you will learn it as you go. That's what William Gibson is great at. You know the saying, don't tell, don't show. Don't tell, but show. That's what he does. Through the book, you just start learning more and more and more, and your knowledge of the world, your knowledge of what's going on, you start to understand. You will start to understand the people, because like I said, at first he's just shooting them at you like a machine gun. Names, characters, places, terminology, concepts can be a little overwhelming. So I beg you, if you want to read this book and you're not familiar with William Gibson, take your time at the beginning, read it, you'll start to understand it. I'm going to use this analogy. Forgive me if I'm totally off base, but you know, like how a lot of novels start with a central character. You learn that character, you learn the world, if it's fantasy, science fiction, whatever, and then they start branching off. Someone goes on a trip, a journey, you know, to this part of the world, and you start learning more parts of the world. You start being introduced more characters that way. So it's more of an organic, you know, learning of the environment and these people that you're dealing with. You can still get huge amounts of characters like Tad Williams, and so you spread out, and then they eventually come back together at the end. If you're a talented writer, it works. If not, it doesn't. This is almost like an exploded view. You know, like if you've seen those pictures of, let's say, a race car, and it's an exploded view. So it goes boom, and you've got the steering wheel and the windshield and the engine you can explode more, and the tires. You've got this whole exploded view, but you can bring it back together to make it one coherent object. That's how this book is. It almost starts out kind of exploded, and then slowly but quickly it just goes like a vacuum, like whoom, and it all comes to, I don't know if I'm explaining this right. It all comes together, and all of a sudden, bam, you're understanding everything, and it's really cool. Yeah, that's my, but again, I love William Gibson. I'm used to his writing style. I will tell you, the reason I read it is because there's an Amazon original TV series of this that came out in 2022, and I started watching it, and it was awesome. It's really good, and of course they canceled it, so there are no other seasons, just the first season. It was really good, and I hadn't read the book yet, So that's why I chose to read the book. Now, I'm going to say something. I don't say this all the time, but I've said it a couple times. The TV series is maybe better than the book. Yeah, I said it. Now, how do I explain it? It's the book, but different things happen kind of in a different order. Some things happen that don't happen in the book. Things happen in the book, don't happen in the TV series. But if you're not a William Gibson fan, it may behoove you to watch the Amazon original TV series first and then read this. You won't take that 40, 50 page initial onslaught of terminology. You'll be able to kind of understand what's happening right from the beginning when you start reading the book. Usually I would say read the book first before you watch the movie or the TV series. This one, you might want to watch the TV series first and then read the book. Now, this book is part of a trilogy. The second book is out. I'm going to be reading it probably in a couple months. The third book isn't out yet. I can't wait to see what happens because you don't have to read those other books. This is all one story in this book. You'll be satisfied if you read it. But again, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not for everybody. William Gibson is not for everybody. I understand. Even like A Neuromancer, which again is one of my favorite books, Moyd, he's a booktuber and does science fiction. I love Moyd. He's awesome. His videos are awesome and informative. He does not like Neuromancer at all. I love it. I don't know. Anyways, William Gibson. Tough to get into, but well worth your time. If you read it, I think you will enjoy it. So, as usual, if you found any entertaining value in my videos, please like, subscribe, leave me some comments, and until next time, peace out.